If you are looking to buy a house or sell a house or invest in a property here in the Halifax market, you've got to understand the market stats. And we're here in February, and the average selling price that we got for the month of February was $637,700 and a little bit of money as well. So that gives you an idea as to exactly what the average price is. So now we want to start looking at, well, what did we list for? Like, where did we start? We know we finished at 637, but we started at 642 and a little bit of change as well. So that gives us a 99.2% sale to list price, which is pretty impressive considering all of the changes that have gone over the last year. And certainly what that means for buyers is Halifax is not really getting any cheaper, and I'm sorry to say it, and I'm sorry to burst that bubble, because we deal with, and I help a lot of people in that kind of like $500,000 price range, and that can be a little bit of struggle for them because you're looking at houses at $638,000 as an average, and we're starting at $643,000. So yes, there's a roughly $5,000 price difference there. But the big thing we want to make sure that everybody's looking at is we've got to start looking at, well, where did we originally start? Now, the original listing price for all of those houses that went conditional and went sold in the month of February, that was at $650,000. So you can kind of see that, you know, when we start looking at a lot of these averages and we start stripping out all of the zeros, because unfortunately the zeros make the average lower, you're talking on average a $24,500 price drop from where a lot of these houses started. Now, let's ignore the ones where they were priced correctly. Sellers, that's a tick for you, is that you got to start where you think is correct, because then you don't have to have the price drops and you don't have to kind of lower the price to then take the price that actually gets accepted on an offer. So that's one of the big things that this month we want to really kind of delve into a little bit more, because for sellers, this is going to be March, April, May. This is the big selling month in Halifax. Like, we're in that spring market, you know, the weather's getting a little bit nicer and people are starting to come out. We're starting to see more activity. Just this weekend, there was a good number of properties that went conditional just this weekend at the start of March. So the spring market is here. It has started for sure. So sellers, if you're thinking about putting your house up for sale, you've got to be accurate with your pricing so that you're not going to be here 60, 80, 100 days down the line and you're still actually up for sale. You want to be like within 2 to 3 weeks, you want to be getting that offer. You want to accept the offer, do a bit of negotiations, all that kind of stuff. And then you want to be basically going through the conditions and then being sold, moving in, let's say May, something like that, May, June. So that $24,500 price drop on average across, you know, what we got like sort of 23, 24 different markets inside of Halifax. That's telling you that people had to do some pretty interesting price drops to get their offer accepted. And then it's the $5,000, 99.2% that we're looking at. So that's really where the average price comes into play. So buyers, it just means you're going to have to make sure that when you see the houses, you are ready to go. You are pre-approved. You have got your deposit actually in the bank ready to go as well. And then we get into all the other items such as the lawyers and the the house inspections and all that good stuff, deed transfer tax as well. So buyers, get yourself ready. Sellers, price appropriately for the market. Do your analysis on the other houses that are actually up for sale. What's actually gone sold in the last, I'd say 60 to 90 days. Don't go any too farther than that. And that's how you'll get that accurate pricing. Looking at the average price and then comparing it to like last month and how we did last year. Last month, that was a really high price point. So we're down 4%, $25,000 on last month. But more importantly, and I think this is where we really like to focus, is what happened last year, so February 2024, and we were up 7% on that number. That was at 594. We're now at 637 and a bit. So that tells you that the prices are definitely still coming up when you look at year-on-year comparison. When we look at the days on market, we're at 41 days on market, which is over a month now. But when we look at last month, that was 48 days on market. Last year, that was 35. So Yes, we're better than last month, but as we go back to last month's analysis, and you'll see that we talked about there was a lot of houses there that were kind of extended days on market that actually went conditional and sold in the month. Not so much this time, so we're back down to 41 days on market, which is still kind of like a sensible amount of time. I'd always much happier with my clients when we're 30 days or less in terms of days on market, but 41's not that bad. And it also, when you look at the 41 days, and then let's look at the actual months of inventory at 2.4 months of inventory, that tells you a little bit of a picture that the market, 2.4 months is still a seller's market, but it is becoming a little bit more kind of like balanced, longer days on market, as well as 2.4 months of inventory, technically still a seller's market. It does give you a little bit of time that the buyers can actually feel as though they're not going, number one, multiple offers, number two, not going over asking price, and number three, actually having a little bit of time to go and look at the different properties that are actually out there and decide which one fits best for them, not under a huge amount of pressure, not rushing into making a decision and things like that. So that's a little bit of advice of what's going on for the buyers as well with inventory and days on market. Now, the number of sales, we hit 277 sales in the month of February. Compare that to last month, we are up 44% because last month was really quiet at 193, but last year 262. So last year and this year kind of similar. So I think from a buyer's and a seller's point of view, here's some advice for you. It's going to be very similar, I think, this year as to how we were last year. Some people have been saying that it's going to be like an absolutely rock solid year and we're going to do a lot more volume. I just don't think that's coming. Now, admittedly, we're 2 months into it. We're not 6 months into it, but I just don't see that much more demand and that many more people putting the houses up for sale that's actually going to result in a bumper year compared to how we were last year. So I think this year and last year, and certainly January, February, volume of sales, number of listings, days on market, and things like this are all starting to feel very similar to last year. When we look at the number of houses that are active for sale right now, we're at 668 homes for sale. Last month, that was 630, so we're up definitely on last month. Last year, that was 622, so we're even up on last year in terms of the number of houses that we've actually got for sale. And again, the more houses that are coming up for sale, it kind of gives you two things. Number one, it means that sellers are getting ready for the swing market. But number two, it means that the buyers are starting to have a little bit more time and they're starting to choose the houses that are right for them. One of the other indicators that I particularly really find very leading, very interesting, very basically tells you what's going on with the market is that new to sales listing ratio. So we're comparing all the new houses that have come up for sale versus the listings or the sales rather that have actually happened in the month as well. So this time we were at 77%. So we listed we listed 358. We sold 277. So there's roughly 90 homes that were coming on the market more than we actually sold. Now last month that was at 55%. So listed a lot more than we actually sold, roughly double. And last year, that was at 85%. So you can see that 77%, 85%, kind of similar again. But what it does is there are houses that will withdraw from the market, they will be cancelled, and they will be expired. Those ones just kind of drop off the market. So really what this is starting to look at, and that's why you can't really do the math to say, well, if we sold 277, we have 668 for sale. How does that jive? Well, it's because there are expireds, withdrawals, and cancels. They drop off the market and just, whether they come back or not later, potentially, but they also could just drop off the market and just not come back as for sale at all. And that's why we're sitting at 77%. Now, if that was at 100%, that means basically we're not increasing the inventory and the houses that we put up for sale, the same number of houses is actually selling. And that would give you kind of that indication that, okay, that's fairly balanced. But we seem to be always doing this, we're listing more houses up for sale than we're actually selling right now. And that is definitely typical of where we are in the stage of the year so far. So that's giving you a whole idea as to what's going on with the number of days on market, the average sale price, and everything else. Now we want to start looking at some particular neighborhoods. Coming in at the number one spot, once again, it's Timberley, Prospect, St. Margaret's Bay area. That came in at just over $616,500 sale price. The listing price for that was actually at $622,500, so that gives you a 99.1% sale to list price. With 37 days on market, 36 homes sold, so that's what makes it number one. And remember that number, that 36, we're going to come back to that in a sec. 98 homes actually for sale. That gives us 2.7 months of inventory. And I wanted to look at why is this area, because we've been saying now for, it feels like a good 7-8 months that Timberley, St. Margaret's Bay and Prospect have been coming in at number one. And this is where you really need to delve into their particular area, MLS area, that makes that up, because that includes an area called Beachville. Now, if you know where Beachville is, it's at the very bottom of Bayers Lake, just off the Halifax Peninsula. And it's kind of like first little subdivision before you start going along basically the 103 highway, because it becomes Beachville, Lakeside, and then you hit Timberley. That's where you hit Brunello Estates, and there's an awful lot of new development going on there. But in Beachville, there is this one area called Lovett Lake. And when I looked at the 36 houses that were sold, 22 of those houses were actually new construction sales as well. So basically 2/3 of that number were new construction sales. And in that Lovett Lake area, I think there was 15, 16 houses that were all basically sold in January. And that was because it was phase 2 of these houses that had come up for sale. And the realtor, obviously, who was representing the builder there, just basically sold almost all of the new phase that he put up for sale on Granite Terrace there. So that's why this area in particular, because I don't think it's necessarily St. Margaret's Bay and Prospect that are actually driving a lot of the sales volume that we keep seeing in this area showing up as number one month after month after month. I think it's Timberley, Brunello Estates in particular there, and also Beachville, Lovett Lake Estates as well, because these are not cheap houses that they're putting up for sale. This isn't the $500,000 starter homes. This is definitely the $689 and well above that number in Brunello Estates for some of the houses that are new that are actually coming up for sale. But people do like that new construction, and Parks of Bedford West has definitely slowed down a little bit in terms of new construction coming up. So these two areas have definitely taken over, and they're both in Timberley, St. Margaret's Bay and Prospect area. So that's pushing a whole MLS district up, and it's doing quite nicely. Now let's look at number 2, back up to East Hants and Colchester West. Their average sale price there is $553,000. The average list price was $557,000, so that gives you a 99.2% average. 55 days on market, so a little bit longer up there, and definitely not a lot of new construction. So I think the builders are still finishing off a lot of that subdivision up there and waiting to put those up for sale. 35 homes sold, 83 actually for sale. That gives them 2.4 months of average. Again, that's still a very popular area, and it's one of the houses, the new ones being built up there, they are coming up in that kind of high 4s into the mid 5s for new construction up there. Now we have a tie for number 3. We have two areas. We have Spryfield, and we also have Woodlawn, Portland Estates and Nantucket, both coming in with 16 sales in that particular area. We'll do Spryfield first. Average price there, $621,000. Average list price, $621,000. So basically, I think there's a $50 difference between the two numbers. So basically what you list for, you're selling for. 29 days on market, so just under a month. As we mentioned, 16 homes sold, 21 homes actually active for sale there. That gives them 1.3 months of inventory. So it's good to see Spryfield getting back into the top markets. And interesting as well when you kind of look at that market as well. Again, it's newer homes that are selling into the kind of mid 6s and up, depending what you're looking at there. But there is still obviously opportunity in Spryfield because there is older districts, older homes as well. So still good there. Getting back into Woodlawn, Portland Estates and Nantucket, first time that a Dartmouth area has actually kind of shown up in the top markets. And that's because there are quite a lot of markets, MLS markets, that make up the area of Dartmouth. So yes, if we group them all together, they would definitely be number one market constantly every single month. But this is the first time that we've actually had one that's crept up on its own into that top market. So Woodlawn, Portland Estates and Nantucket, the average sale price there was coming in at $579,000. Average list price, $575,000. So you're looking at 100.7% there. 30 days on market, 16 homes for sold, only 11 actually active for sale in that area, 0.7 months. So again, Dartmouth, that whole area is still very, very popular. And as I kind of like scroll my eyeballs up and down, like the houses that are selling under asking price or over asking price, all of the ones really that are over asking price, apart from Halifax West this month and Lower Sackville, the rest are all Dartmouth markets. So Dartmouth is doing very, very well in terms of its activity there. And I think it's just because it's a little bit more appealing. Price points are obviously a little bit cheaper as well, but you can still get the higher price points and still be close to everything. So that is everything to give you the information all around the Halifax market and what happened in the month of February. Now, if you want to actually sit down and have a chat to me, there are links down below. So definitely click on one of those so you can actually schedule a time, sit down with me, have a conversation, and we can talk about your specific situation, what you're looking to do in 2025, and how we know that we can actually help you, whether you're looking to sell the house, buy the house, or even invest in an income property.